Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well and welcome to another video on Amazon's New World. So I want to try and keep this video pretty short, but yesterday we got another developer's blog which goes into quite a lot of detail about the factions, the way the PvP is going to work, particularly around the factional war mechanics and how that's all going to kind of interact together. So as we currently know, there are three factions in the game. The Marauders, a very militaristic faction where strength is dominant, and that strength is going to determine really how far you can progress. The Syndicate, a very secretive, shadowy faction who aims to collect hidden knowledge to bring a new age of enlightenment. And the Covenant, a fanatical religious order who wants to burn heretics. You can guess which one I want to pick. Who doesn't want to cleanse the land of heretics and burn people?
God Wilson!
It doesn't specify exactly where it would appear, but at some point early game, I'm assuming probably going to be after the tutorial, you're going to have to make a decision about which faction you'd like to join. This decision is going to be final, so you need to be really careful about which one you pick, particularly as companies are going to be faction locked. So if you join the Marauders as a faction, you then can't go and join your friend's company which works for the Covenant, as you won't be able to join. So you need to really think early on about which faction you want to join to make sure you join one, particularly if you're going to be teaming up with friends or guildmates from other games. The developer blog then goes on to talk in detail about the benefits of the faction system and how they see this working around the current PvP mechanics. They don't specify the exact extent of the rewards, but it seems that the more land and territory your faction owns, the greater the rewards you will receive, such as increased damage, better loot, increased rare crafting finds, and etc. and things like that. This all sounds great, and generally I'm really in favour of this. I do think they need to be a little bit careful that the servers don't become too one-sided. I don't really want to get a situation such as there is in sort of World of Warcraft, where a particular server, is known as an alliance server or a herd server, as this just really kind of diminishes the amount of PvP opportunities there kind of are going to be in each server. So how does this factional system improve the current quite diminished PvP gameplay? Well, let me explain. When a company takes control of a territory, they might be responsible for running the town, but the land itself is actually really going to be owned in the name of their faction. And both the owning company and other members of that same faction will then be responsible for increasing their factional influence in that territory. And factional standing can only be increased by the completion of factional PvP missions, completing tasks such as patrolling areas, delivering supplies, attacking other factions' players, etc., all of which will have to be completed whilst PvP flagged. And Amazon confirmed in a separate tweet that you cannot unflag from PvP whilst in one of these missions or it'll auto fail. So in effect, to increase your factional standing, you have to be PvP flagged. So I suppose this all leads on to the next question. Why would I care about my factional standing, and why should I really be interested? Well, in short, before an opposing faction or company can declare war on an enemy settlement, they are required to raise their factional standing above that of the defending faction and undermine the standing of that governing faction. Equally, the defenders are trying to keep their own factional influence growing so that the enemy factions cannot undermine them. So in short, that means to conquer land and gain the associated factional benefits, you have to engage in factional PvP, or else you cannot take and hold territory. I do really quite like this as a system. I don't think it's going to fulfill all of the PvP desires of many of the players, but I think it is at least a good development from the previous situation. And the fact that it's talking about the game having an ability to auto-toggle PvP for certain missions and fail certain missions if PvP gets toggled off means that there's really good potential for kind of developing maybe some high-level areas, particularly maybe up in the north of the map where PvP auto-toggles on upon entering, maybe putting some rare resources up there in sort of PvP toggle zones. That's something I'd really like to see kind of developed in the future. The one area in the developer blog where I actually do have some concerns is around which company gets to attack during a factional war. So in the current system, once your faction has undermined the standing of the opposing faction, the defending settlement can be war decked by any company within the attacking faction. So what I mean by that is, once your faction has undermined the enemy standing, anyone or any company from your faction can then declare war on that defending settlement. So this could just be one company, but it could also be 100 companies. It is then a random draw which decides which company gets to lead the attack on the enemy settlement. It could be a well-developed large company of 50 organised players, or it could be a one-man band with a sharp melon. Now, I'm by no means advocating that large guilds should get priority, but in a 50v50 siege, where organisation will really be quite critical in terms of taking settlements, I could see it really leading to some frustration when a small guild gets to lead an attack and just makes up the thing full of volunteers, with no real organisation. It's going to be very hard for them, I think, to be able to take settlements, particularly if they're going to be coming up against skilled defenders. Now, I don't really have any obvious or easy answer to this, but I could just see it being a real source of frustration for players in the future. So if anyone has any good ideas, do put them in the comments down below. I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts on this one, because I don't know, do you think this is going to be a source of frustration? I could really see it being kind of a little bit of a problem, particularly for the larger guilds. So anyway, that is all I have got for you today. Hopefully that's been a reasonably concise summary of some of these factional changes, particularly how it's going to be developing around the PvP stuff. I feel that it is a step in the right direction. It kind of increases the amount of PvP by providing sort of some extra incentives to actually do it, and actually some compulsion, particularly for guilds who want to be able to start to look to claim territory to actually do it, to undermine that factional standing. Do let me know what you think about this video in the comments down below. Of course, please give it a like if you would like to, that really does help the channel out. Subscribe to the channel for a load more New World content. Thanks for watching guys, and I shall see you all on the next video.